G'day viewers, it's time for a shift on the East Midland trains HST Class 43 on the Midland Mainline. What's that? You don't know how to drive? Let's fix that. Okay, let's open the door, jump on in. Let's close the door because we don't want any of those passengers in here. You never know where they might go. Alright, let's sit in the driver's seat and let's start with the basics. First up, master key and put your reverser to forwards. Okay. I like to turn on the safety system, so let's turn on DSD, which basically means if your invisible feet get off that panel, the train will stop. Now, DRA is normally not isolated, and if we had a red signal in front of us, we'd pull the button and you'll notice that the HUD has turned red now, which means we cannot move. So if I tried to move, we would not be able to. We don't have a red signal, so I shall pop that back off. Over here, we've got the train protection warning system. If you need to override stopping at a red signal for any reason, you can, if the signaller has let you do it. And if you want to turn on AWS, you use this cunningly labelled switch that says spare. And then reset it in the usual way, which for me is the Q key, or you can use, I think it's B on the Xbox. Maybe it's a circle on PlayStation, I never can remember. Anyway, let's pop on our headlights, not nights, we want day. Let's pop out and have a look at that. Whee! We have day headlights. Let's see what night headlights look like. Well, the light's on the other side. That makes sense. And what about tail lights? Red. Perfect. Alright. So let's go to day headlamps and markers. You can't turn on this GSMR. If you want to contact the signal, you use the telling bone over here. Alrighty. What's next? What is next? We've talked about headlights, talked about the reverser. We don't have to cut in the brakes. They automatically are. Window wipers. Yes, here we go. Let's put it on to on. Giant wiper. Why do I feel like Homer eating donuts? Giant wiper. Alright, let's pop that back to off. Horn. High and low. Is that wiper going to stop? It is going to stop. Look at that. What about... somewhere there was a fan. Ooh. Yeah, a fan. Excellent. Horn's also here. AWS acknowledges here. Throttle is here. We'll get into that shortly. You can stop the engine if you want to. And if you do stop the engine, you might want to press engine start to get going again. There's the driver's buzzer, which doesn't go it goes squeaky, like a German train horn. And then there's your slow speed shunting modes. There's a gauge dimmer, so if you want to see your lights, you can turn them up or you turn them down, whatever you want to do. Over here, there's an LED test button. Hey, test all the LEDs. How about that? You can turn the train lights off or turn the train lights on. There we are, train lights on. They currently are on because it's lit up. And the other ones are all LEDs, I think. Parking brake on and parking brake off up there. Parking brake is in fact off because it's lit up. Alright then, that's about it for that. So we can release the brakes. We haven't unlocked the doors, have we? Alright, let's go through the brake positions then. So we're in running, then we'll go into brake initial or 1. We'll open the doors, let our passengers in, and have a look at the other positions. So there's brake 2, sigh. You can see on the brake pipe gauge, the right hand one, the pressure dropped, and the left hand one, the pressure went up. Let's go it again. Sigh. More pressure going up on the locomotive and the train pipe, and less there. Ooh, surprise. Ooh, 4. Now you can relax these brakes or release them in stages. If I go from full service back to say 5 or 4, it does actually release the brakes as you go, so it's not like the old-fashioned Westinghouse system. What about, while we're loading passengers, if we go into emergency? Let's try. There's two ways to go into emergency. You can either whack the handle into emergency, or you can push the button. Let's whack the handle this time. There we go, it dumps out all the air. The brake cylinders are at the maximum pressure. It's time to lock the doors. Let's do that. How do we release the brakes from emergency? Well, that's actually not very hard. If your throttle was open, you'd put it back to 0 like it is now, and then just pretty much release the brakes, and your brake pipe will start pumping back up. And in a short time, it'll get high enough that it can release the brake cylinders. Brake cylinders do follow, I think it's Boyle's law or Moyle's law, one or the other. So when it gets to about half the pressure in the brake cylinders, it will start to release. Any moment now. Soon. And there we go. Alright, it wasn't half, it was 3/4. That's fine. Let's get out of here. Ha! Rail driver horn button finally worked. Alright, now you're going to see the throttle jiggle because my rail driver's in the wrong position. Don't worry about that. So we have notch 1. Bit of a quiet start off. We'll do another one of these where I'm outside in a moment. Let's go to notch 2. Notch 3 and 4. I skipped one. Nice bit of bass going on there. And notch 5, which is all the way, but we don't want to go too fast, so let's drop the notches off back to 0. And we're coming up to a new speed zone, 25 miles an hour. We have to change some tracks. When the rear of our train passes that sign, we'll be allowed to go faster. There's not much to this train. The high-speed train. It's quite a simple beast to drive. So we'll do a little bit of a cruise out on the line. We are allowed to go faster now. Let's pop out and see the smoke, perhaps. Redlined it. And of course being really bad and backing right back down to 0 again so that we don't go too fast. Green signal in the distance there. Once we're allowed to go faster, we shall. Passing over an AWS magnet now, and we got the chime that tells us it's not an adverse signal ahead. It's still up to us to read the signal and to understand it's green, and that means proceed. We can start accelerating to 80. We'll do it gently because we haven't actually got past the 80 yet. It's not until the rear of our train, all the way back here, gets past the sign, you'll see the HUD change. So any moment now we should see that change to 80. Well, we should. Maybe that sign said 30. Maybe it didn't say 80. Anyway. Oh, that's why, because we're changing tracks. Silly me. There we go. Now it's gone up to 80 because we've finished our track changes. There's a 158. This locomotive does have a nice bit of thrash, and when you're in the cab it's got a nice bit of bass, so I hope you've got some good headphones or speakers to enjoy that. If you're not hearing a lot of bass right now, you haven't got good headphones or speakers. Sorry. Now, of course, the really cool thing about high-speed trains is they take a long time to get to the high-speed bit. Acknowledge our vigilance there. So vigilance gets turned on along with DSD when you turn that on, the driver's safety device. Almost up to 80 mile an hour now, so I'll have to back the throttle off. We can be a bit more gentle about this. We are on the level. It is a mostly level route. As we cruise along. Alright, so I think I'll leave you here and I'll bring you back when we're coming into East Midlands, because I'm hoping to have an adverse signal on the way so I can show you AWS. I want to show you two things about AWS. I want to show you how to acknowledge it and what happens if you don't, and how to recover from it. So hopefully I will see you in just a moment. Just hunting for my pen. Oh, we better honk for this platform. Now this is an early access version, so you may see some artifacts that aren't in the real thing. Just slow this down a bit. Now this train does have TPWS, so if you run over a speed grid, oh look! It's a double yellow, so I'm not going to acknowledge it. And there we go. Emergency braking, because I didn't acknowledge it. So you can acknowledge it now, but it won't release the brakes. So if your throttle's not already at 0, pop your throttle back to 0. You can, if you wish, apply your brakes. Now, even though it changed to yellow, changed to green just after we got there, that doesn't really matter. Now, at this point, you can sit here and wait for a minute. That would be accurate. Or you can do this. Just pop your brakes on so you don't roll away and go off, on, acknowledge, release, and your brake pipe will pump up and you don't need to wait the minute. Oh no, he's breaking the rules. Don't do that. Do it, do it. Don't ever break the rules. Always wait the minute. Don't ever just reset the train. Alright, up we go. There you go. I've shown you how to recover from an emergency braking which is brought on by Train Protection Warning System, TPWS. And any moment now we ought to be able to move. There we go. Look at that. Passenger will be going, what's this clown doing? Nothing. Well, I probably won't get another yellow signal to acknowledge because we're not catching up with that train anymore because this signal's green. But that's okay, I got to show you, so I'm happy. So I'll take it into East Midlands, and it's only 4 miles away. You'll hang around for that long, won't you? You want to know what's happening, and then I'll show you a normal service stop, and I'll show you how to shut it down as well. I'll also show you, since the net signal is in fact yellow, how to acknowledge so it doesn't stop you. Now, if you generate your own emergency brake with the little button over here, it's reset in the same way as if you do it with the brake handle. Just release your brakes and off you go. Bob's your uncle and all those things. I love how the flowers grow as you drive past. That's just amusing. I hope they never fix that. I'll be sad if they do. Cruising along. Whoop, I didn't behave myself at a level crossing there. It's a narrowboat. And that narrowboat is, of course, sitting in the English equivalent of a fjord. It's just not as scenic. What do I see there? Power lines that just end. Well, okay. That's clearly exactly what was wanted at that moment. That's okay. I did say this was an early access version. I'm not honking for any of the crossings. I'm naughty. Maybe they don't honk on this line. I'm just trying to think whether I've seen a whistle board. I don't think I have. Maybe they don't use them on this line. If they do, let me know in the comments. .8 miles to the East Midlands Parkway. We're going into platform 2. Ooh, I'd better slow down. I'm being naughty. And if I cross a grid like this, it'll whack me. Because it has overspeed protection. And there are some grids. Did you see that? Just in time, I slowed down. Because if I hadn't, it would have given me a penalty break. That was lucky. You've got to blind if you want to close it and make driving harder. There's the gigantic power station cooling towers off on the left there, and gratuitous bridge shot, which I can't get very far over because it's an invisible wall, but that's okay. As we slow down for our approach into East Midlands Parkway. I probably didn't really need to slow down that much, but there you go. I could have just kept going, I think. I often look up at that thing and go, ooh, a mile to go. That's a long way. And then I slow down too early like this. As they say, that's okay. Its brakes aren't too bad in this thing, I have to say. The great sigh as I apply the brakes sounds somehow familiar. Here's another one. Hello, brother. Driven by a sister, as you were. I think that one must have been just arriving into the platform just like us. How about that? Near enough. Alright, let's get the doors open. So, you want to shut the train down. You wouldn't normally, it's partway midway through the run, but you just put your brakes to full service, throttle to 0, pop your headlights off. I usually put them on tail lights when I'm shutting a train down. You can turn your safety systems or not off, it's fine. Seems to cope fine if you change ends with them turned on. Bring your reverser back to off and lock your master key. You can't actually take the master key out of this one. And now that I've turned it off, it's completely exhausting the air brake system. And if you were planning on changing ends, you'd hop out here and race up the other end and jump in up there where you'd find an identical cab. There we have it. The Class 43 high-speed train, or HST, on the Midland Mainline route in Train Sim World 3, East Midlands Trains is the carrier. Alrighty, thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed this, see you later.